I wanted to have a little bit of an open session with you guys. Okay? It's about, today I'm going to talk about my journey, okay? What I've seen. So about 6 years as an entrepreneur now. I graduated from IIM Bangalore in 2012 and 6 years I've done this, and this is my second venture. The first venture did not work out, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk a little bit about why it didn't work out as well, okay? And what I've learned and what can you possibly learn from whatever I have learned, okay? So that is the idea. Keep it as an open session. Ask any kind of questions, just raise your hands and ask, okay? It's okay to interrupt me. It will be better that way, in fact. However, before we begin, I want all of you guys to do a small exercise, okay? That will be for you as well as for me a little bit. I want you guys to, you have your sheets? Oh, great, great, that's awesome. Okay. So just raise your hands, everyone who has ever thought of starting up or is already starting up, you know, your own company. So most of us, right? Most of us have at least thought of starting up, or you know, you're already into some kind of your own ventures, right? Okay, great. So what I want you to do is, on your sheet of paper, you know, at the top of this paper, just write a business idea that you would want to try out next. If you're already doing it, just write about that. Just, you know, in a sentence or so, what is that idea that you would want to do? Let's say you want to open a school, then say I want to open a school, you know, for so and so kids, whatever it is, okay? Whatever is the business that you want to try out, just write that there. And at the end of the session, I'll take these sheets from you, and I'll also ask you to do a little bit more on these sheets in the middle of the session.
You won't take the idea.
I wish it were that easy. It's okay. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable sharing it, don't share it with me. But just write it there for your own reference, okay? All done? You guys need more time? I see some people are still writing. All right, I see most of you have written it down. So, shall we proceed? All right. Before I start this, I need to give you guys a disclaimer, okay? So today I'm going to be opinionated, okay? So I'm going to take sides. I'm not going to do the bullshit that I really abhor in business schools where people speak on both sides, you know, standing here. That's not good for class discussions. I don't believe that. I'm going to be politically incorrect. I'm going to say politically incorrect words. I am often going to be wrong as well, okay? Why? Because this thing is not really working, is it? Okay. Is it? Come on. No? Okay. So why? Because something I learned while doing my MBA was that for real true learning to happen in a class setting, the guy who's leading the session has to be really honest, okay? At least honest to the extent that he should be able to call things out as he knows them, okay? So that is why I'm going to be politically incorrect today, okay? I hope you guys don't mind it. And because I'm also going to be often wrong, so it really depends upon you what you want to take from this session, okay? About venture capital and about entrepreneurship, okay? So it's up to you. So take these things with a pinch of salt, okay? So if we have this disclaimer in place and this agreement between all of us, let's start. Awesome. So let me start with, this thing is not really working even when I'm pointing it behind. So, what do I do? Should I just go back and use my laptop? Does this work better? Yeah, I'm happier this way. Okay. So let me start with my journey first. You know, first half of the session is about what I have done and what I have learned. Second half is about general gyan about entrepreneurship and about venture capital. Okay? So I graduated in 2012, finished my MBA, did not sit for placements and started a venture which was about creating board games for the Indian audience, okay? So this is what I did. Lots of problems there. I'm sure you guys will be able to spot 100 problems, but we'll talk about that. That thing didn't really work out. So I thought, okay, now that we have this IP, this interesting games, people are engaged, can we create some kind of a negotiation skills training for people based on these games? I spent some time doing that. That also did not work out. Third thing I tried was, now that we understand how to make learning games, can we make learning games and use the Facebook platform to, to spread these and see if people, let's say, learn a little bit more about vocabulary, learn a little bit more about stock market using these kind of things. So we did this. And as you guys can tell, none of this worked out, okay? But it helped because I got to learn enough about software to know what might work, okay? And developed a thesis around it. The first point I learned was that whatever skills we had in software, we had done enough, enough server, client, everything to make software for SMBs, small and medium businesses. Why? Because again, this was, remember, two people, a company, there's not enough experience, not enough capital, not enough anything to actually sell to enterprise, okay? So this was my first learning. But an important point was that if you're building software for SMBs, you need to understand that they must be thriving businesses because in India, willingness to pay is a critical thing. If you work with SMBs, you will not find many people who will be willing to pay for software. So that was the second criteria when I started the second company, AutoNinja. And another important point is that if you're building software, you must build software for people who cannot build software themselves, because otherwise everyone will say, yaar, mere chacha ka bhi to, beta hai jo ki software bana raha hai to bana lenge type. So you don't want to get into that kind of mess. So you want businesses jahan pe ki is type ka conflict nahi hai, which means that you cannot sell to startups, you cannot sell to companies who have some kind of, software thing going on already. You want to sell to hardcore businesses where technology has a smaller role to play, at least building technology has a smaller role to play. So this is 2013. We studied 4 industries in India with this kind of a framework. Yes. We is 3 founders, myself, Rahul and Ashish. So I've not talked about my founders here. If you guys want at the end, maybe I'll talk more about them. So anyway, there are, so we studied hospitals, hotels, restaurants and auto dealerships with the same framework. Okay, SMBs must be willing to pay, must have a need to build, a need for technology but not a need to build technology. And what we realized with auto was that it was a very underserved kind of market. Even today it is. If you look into India and see कि auto dealerships में जो लोग software provide करते हैं, who are the largest company? We would be the largest company by a far margin. If you look into the second largest company, it will be very hard for you to find second largest companies as well. If you are not in the industry, it will be very hard. If you're in the industry, you'll know a few folk. But that was our initial finding. And second was obviously that auto dealerships were large enough to actually pay for software. The second thing I would talk about, if you're selling software or doing anything, building any kind of software service, I would say this is critical. You have to find a hair on fire problem. If you don't do that, it will be extremely hard to sell. Have you guys tried this? Have you guys actually tried to sell software, for your own venture? Anyone? You have, right? You also have? Is this kind of an experience for you true as well? Did you guys build before selling, or did you guys sell before building? Did everything. Okay.
But every time you build a demo and something, thing is, the dilemma is once if you don't see a demo, it's not there, then they say it's a concept. I can't look and feel, what is it? I don't know. But if you build everything, they say, no, this does not meet my need. It's something different.
True. That is.
They're always willing to be the second customer, not the first customer.
True. So our entire thing was that is true, but because we had already failed at one startup, we said, okay, that means that their hair is not on fire. If their hair was on fire, they would write a check looking at a deck. So that was our second framework. We will not build anything until someone gives us a check. If they are not giving us a check and they are insisting on a demo, then it means their hair is not on fire. So you need to do something else. Does that make sense? Any other person has a comment about this kind of a?
It must not be really hard for you to find such a customer who would give you a check based on just a deck, and especially to a startup, without having experience in an enterprise application altogether.
Not really. Again, see, if the problem is hair on fire, that's my entire hypothesis. If the problem is hair on fire, you are giving a software solution, people will give you a check, even a small check, but they will give you a check to build it, right? So that's the whole idea.
But there are enterprise applications available for dealerships, and I know Infosys has one, and a couple of big players have.
How many clients does Infosys have in India?
No, they don't focus on the Indian market, but the thing is they do have.
So I'm talking about this market, right? I'm talking about this market, and I'll take you through my journey, okay? And see, I'm going to be opinionated, okay? So don't mind it, okay? It's my stance today. The day you meet me outside this classroom, I'll not be opinionated, okay? Okay. So let's move on. Let's move on to what I did, what I built again with AutoNinja, okay? This is about technology for auto dealerships. So let me first define very quickly what a dealership looks like, okay? So this is what a dealership is in India, okay? An average Maruti dealership in India does about $50 million in top line. It employs anywhere between 400 to 500 people, and it serves all human needs related to auto, okay? You want to buy a car, sell a car, you want to, buy finance, insurance, all sorts of things around a car, accessories will be sold by a dealership, okay? And the way these dealerships work is, even though it is the same customer, the same guy who's buying a car, who's servicing a car, getting it repaired, even then they will have specialized departments, right, within a dealership to actually make these services happen. And the way they will work again is they will have their own silos. They will work in isolation. For example, the service manager at a dealership will not know what transactions the insurance manager is doing, and so on and so forth, okay, and vice versa. However, tracking the entire dealership journey, tracking the entire consumer journey for a dealership is critical. Why? Because if you look at their EBITDA and you look at what is the potential gross margin a dealership can earn from a customer, it's about 1 lakh rupees. On an ASP of 7 lakh rupees in India, the guy can stand to gain a gross margin of 1 lakh rupees if he's able to sell all of these things, In an entire 4 or 5 year lifetime of a consumer, if he sells the car, sells accessories, loans, insurance, does renewals, does body repairs, does service, only then he'll be able to earn this 1 lakh rupees, okay? And because again, all these departments, all these slices of this pie are not working together, they are working in isolation, they don't have systems to look across the barrier. So it's very hard for a dealership to actually track this consumer journey through and through. So this is what we help dealerships do. Let me go one step deeper. Let me first talk about sales, the left half of the pie, which is about half of the guy's EBITDA, and maybe slightly less than half of his PAT, because one more thing, at a dealership, sales is high capex EBITDA, because you need to set swanky showrooms on main streets, you need to buy a lot of expensive cars and then retail them again, versus after sales is actually low capex EBITDA. So if you look at a PAT split for a dealership, after sales is slightly more important than sales. But let me talk about both. So first I'll talk about sales. That will to some extent answer your question as well. What's your name? Akash. I should answer your question to some extent. So what is the hair on fire problem here? The problem here is that across the world today, the way cars are sold, it's a very high touch kind of business. One salesperson sells on, the best guy sells about 4 cars a month, okay, on average. Which means that if India is selling about 4 million cars, let's say this year or next year, then there are going to be at least 150,000 odd people employed selling those cars, okay. It's a high touch business that also needs a lot of collaboration. A lot of people within a dealership must come together to sell a car. There's going to be a sales consultant, there's going to be his boss who decides on discounts, there's going to be an evaluator who does, used car evaluations, there's going to be a finance guy, there are going to be a lot of people, and all of them must consistently talk to each other to make the sale happen, What adds to the complexity is that about 90% of all salespeople today in India do not spend time in the showroom, but spend time outside the showroom. So they're not stationary, they're mobile, they're running around. They're doing test drives, they're doing home visits for customers, they're doing events at malls, all these things. And the best collaboration technology they have today, state of art, is mobile phones. No, not WhatsApp really, mobile phones. Even if a salesperson has to find out whether a variant and a color, that combination is available in inventory, whether it is available in transit inventory, even those things are always communicated over phone. So imagine entire collaboration done on phone. And what about workflow management? How do dealerships manage salespeople today? What's the state of the art technology that works? This is state of the art. In India, this is state of art. In Southeast Asia, this is state of the art. Gulf, GCC, okay. What's happening is that they will have some kind of a sales automation system, some kind of a desktop based system, kept on, wherever they are, whatever they're doing. And in the morning, every single salesperson comes to the dealership, will get a list of people to follow up, to work upon, test drives to do, etc., etc. The guy will do these things, scribble notes, and send it back to the dealership at 8 p.m. at night, okay. So this is state of art. This is how sales management is done today. So what do early adopters do? In places where technology is this behind the world, this is what you will see early adopters doing. What they will do is, they will create a group, a WhatsApp group for all, let's say 40 salespeople that are there. Every single morning, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., the team leader will post, okay, here is your work for today. Mr. Rahul, this is your work. Mr. Kamar, this is your work, okay? On Excel sheets, pasted on a WhatsApp group. Rahul will open his sheet in the day, keep entering, keep punching what's happening to his follow-ups, to his 20 follow-ups or 30, whatever. He'll enter data. Then in the evening, Rahul will post his data back onto a WhatsApp group for the team leader to punch it back into the sales automation system. Okay. So this is the, it's desktop based. So LMS to final use, people are mobile, LMS is stationary. So this is what people do to manage their LMS.
It's not mobile.
Yes. Yes. Every single brand out there. Yeah? See, the problem there is, I can answer that question, but it will be too specific. See, hota kya hai, I'll answer that. Ki when an OEM, a Mercedes or a Maruti or a Toyota think ki they will make an application for use with dealers, what they forget is ki the dealer is an independent entity. Why the dealer exists? अगर आपको आपका communication खुद manage करना है, तो you will do it yourself ना. Dealer है क्यों? खुद बेच लो गाड़ी. But their model is anti that idea. You have the OEM, you have the retail customer, and you have a dealer. Let me actually draw this. Many people will have this question, I think, about this model. So you have the car maker, you have the retail customer, right? And you have the channel partner. There are three sides of a triangle. Communication between OEM and retail customer by design is through mass media, right? There's no direct relationship between OEM and customer. That's why channel partners exist. वरना तो करना ही नहीं था ना, खुद ही बेच लेते. Communication between OEM and channel partner, the dealer, right? This is done through a software called DMS. I'll talk about that. And communication between channel partner and retail customer across the world is done through a CRM system, which is separate. Okay. Why they are separate is because what the DMS does is basically standardization, right? That every single invoice, every single inventory information should exist here. But communication here is about localization. The dealer manages its own customers. It says कि यार मुझे इस महीने ये स्कीम चलानी है, मुझे इतना डिस्काउंट देना है, whatever. All those things are separate. So whenever Mercedes or anyone thinks कि यार मैं इस साइड पे प्ले करूँगा, it always fails. The fundamental reason is the dealer will never tell you the truth about it. He doesn't want to enter stuff into your unified interface about his customers, which is why you will get bad phone numbers and all those kind of things.
We've been doing this for the last 2 years. We have a centralized system, and the dealers also using that system. We've given them their own separate access.
But are they giving you real data?
So far, at least 40%.
That's what you believe.
So at least 40% of the data is
You can also directly talk to the OEM. You have the website. If you are interested for that particular brand or company, you can enter your details and the OEM.
True. See, Nick, I'm not talking about those specifics. I'm saying what's the general structure of the industry, okay?
Yeah, larger part of it is.
Okay, got it. ठीक है, बाकी in detail let's discuss later, but this is too deep anyway. What do we do here? We help establish this CRM layer so that all the workflow that a executive has, every workflow that the finance guy has, every single work that an evaluator has to do, everything gets managed through an Android application. All visibility to managers, किसने अच्छा काम किया, किसने नहीं किया, who is my top performer, who is not doing a great job, real time. Third, every single call that is happening from a phone, from this system to a customer, okay? gets recorded and gets recorded right there on the app itself, and then it gets synced, so that there are no instances of wrongdoing, which is a very common thing in this industry. I'll give you an example. For example, today abhi IPL ka season chal raha hai, right? So what happens in this industry is ki a DSC, a salesperson, will go to a customer and get a booking for 25,000 rupees. Okay? He'll go back into the Mercedes system and punch in ki mujhe 5,000 rupees ki booking mil gayi. He'll take 25,000 rupees cash from the customer. With 20,000 rupees, guess what he'll do with it? Any guesses? Satta, absolutely. Satta chalega uske upar, theek hai? Why? Because, exactly, because there is no control. No? You don't really fully control these guys. There are hundreds of these guys running around. You don't have full control over them. Which is why a system like this, which can record every single conversation, which can record every single GPS track movement, it becomes critical in this kind of a situation. Okay, so this is what we do on sales. Let's move on. This is what we do in after sales. Okay. Now, this in fact is actually our bigger product. If you look at after sales as an entire business vertical, you will see that almost 80% of a dealer's service revenue and as much as 96% of his insurance revenue is actually generated by a single marketing channel, which is phone calls. Every single dealer in India, whether it's a bike dealer or a four-wheeler dealer, will employ people who will constitute essentially a call center, whether there are 2 people who are calling or there are 20 people who are calling or whether there are 200 people who are calling. It's all going to be some kind of a contact center which will make this kind of service reminder calls, insurance upsell calls. And because it's all database marketing, so you would expect that these guys again are using some kind of a database management system to make this happen. But if you would expect that, you would be wrong, because India. So what happens is that every single dealer again uses Excel sheets and pen and paper to manage his work here. Okay, so which is why they don't have a CRM system, no database management system. So they have poor control on their customer data. They don't even really understand how many customers, unique customers they have served the entire last year. If you ask a dealer कि ये बताओ तुम्हारे sales, service, finance, insurance के बीच में unique customers कितने थे entire last financial year, the guy will never be able to give you an answer. In fact, when our system goes live at any dealership, this is the first question anyone asks us. Ki how many unique customers do I actually have, tell me. And we have to answer that for him. So in this kind of a structure, marketing remains inefficient, which is why the full revenue potential of the dealer is never realized. What I'm showing you is the underlying image, if it's visible a little bit. This is how OEMs today, state of the art, prescribe dealers to store customer data. Ki customer complaint आई तो ये form भरो, इसमें store करो, फिर इसको whatever, put it in a dusty cabinet somewhere. So this is what we do in after sales. We bring all of this data together. We create a central data warehouse for the dealership. All transactions start flowing through this data warehouse such that the marketing funnel of the dealership increases. And if your marketing funnel improves, your bottom line also will improve. This is the slide based on which I raised my seed funding. It's a very funny slide. This is not trivial to do. For example, every single Hyundai dealer today in India, there are about 400 dealers. If you ask their marketing department, how are you going to do marketing, okay, on let's say service marketing? The guy, what he'll do is he'll say, okay, this is April. So anyone who visited me in the month of April last year, April 2017, I'll find out what those invoices were from my invoicing system, which is my DMS system. And I'll call those guys. Okay, not great, but fundamentally fine, not too bad either. But the problem is this, that the DMS system that these guys would use would allow them to download only 20 invoices at a time. Every time they hit a page down, they get 20 more invoices. So what the dealers will do is, the marketing department will block the page down keys. It's all real, okay? It's all real photos, real dealership, real India. They'll stick this thing, go have a sutta break somewhere. After an hour or so, we'll come back and say, okay, some data has been downloaded. Now let me print it, hand it over to ladies who'll start making calls. So this is again the state of the art in India today. What happens when people actually shift to a system where again database marketing is done well? This is what happens, all real data, and I'll show you 100 such case studies if you want. This is on purpose. I've shown you a very small dealership because I wanted to dispel the notion that software only helps people who are already ahead. That's not true. Yeah, software only helps people in metros. That's not true either. In India, this is what we have proven. This is a small dealership in a town called Gulbarga. Have you heard of it? Northern Karnataka. Single, only one Maruti dealer in that entire area. 200 square kilometer area, no other Maruti dealership exists. They have 2 workshops, and their entire history, if I take them back, another 3 years, they used to do about 1,200 services every month, no more, okay, from these 2 workshops. In August of 2015, they bought our CRM system, started using it. In 6 months' time, their entire average had shifted from 1,200 to 1,800, 1,900. And all this 40% growth that happened is only happening because now their marketing funnel is performing better than it was performing before. That's about it. Nothing else. There's no capex. There's no new workshop needed for this growth. There's no, extra base that are needed for this. Just with existing infrastructure, they were able to achieve this because now their marketing is performing way better than it was performing when everything was on paper or Excel. So this is what we do, okay? But that's enough about me. Now let's move on to the second section, where I just wanted to get your thoughts also on how you guys think about venture capital and entrepreneurship, okay? So this is where I'm going to move on. But before we do that, just wanted to get a sense from you guys. Why should anyone start a business in the first place?
There can be multiple reasons for this. I think it's a very individual
So let's list them down.
decision.
Yeah.
Money,
Mm-hmm.
it could be like you can spot a problem and you feel very strongly about it, you want to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of passion. The other could be you want your completely bored of your corporate life and you want to get into something where you want to be your own boss and basically try out new things.
So first is you want to do something exciting,
Yeah.
and the be your own boss thing is definitely a sentiment I'm sure a lot of you will share as well. Anything else?
First, definitely would be the money aspect.
Money. Okay. What else? Does this cover everything? That's it? Huh? Anyone's? So money is there, yeah. Anything else? Pardon my handwriting, I'm not very good at this.
It's like having your own baby versus adopting one.
Okay, I don't have babies, so I don't know that, but I'll take you on face value. So be your own boss is flexibility? So having your own baby, okay.
Your own environment, make your own system, make your own rules, create your own environment, and
So control basically. Yeah, control.
creativity, do the things, have your own policies, procedures, everything of your live in your own environment, create your own environment.
Very fair. Anything else?
Stretch yourself and test your
Speed, getting things done.
Stretch yourself.
Create value.
When you employ somebody else and you become the feed mechanism for their families, that also gives you kind of satisfaction.
Okay. How do I portray that feeling? Create employment. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Social value. Job case.
Status. That's interesting. I'll do money / status. Okay. What else?
Social value, that's a status.
Status. Okay. Okay. What else? Okay.
Speed.
Speed. Can you elaborate that?
I mean, we can make faster decisions more.
Okay.
Unlike you can.
Okay. Okay.
Might be a bit slower.
So another factor of control, let's say. Another reason for control, speed of decisions.
Even legacy behind, like, yeah, there is something for your next generation or something. You can legacy.
Okay. Leaving a legacy. Okay. Anything else? So I agree with most of you guys. When I asked myself this question, there's just one thing that all of you have missed, which was sorry? Passion. Passion is not, it's a reason, I mean, how I will do it, it's not about why I would do it. Maybe it's why also. Anyway, I'll just show you guys my list, okay? So definitely it's about making a ton of money. The one thing that you guys did not talk about is about learning. So what I've realized is that starting a company, entrepreneurship, is in a way doing a PhD in business, okay? You will learn a whole lot of stuff. I mean, it's crazy. The amount of nonsense that is out there to learn, it's amazing. Also, another thing I've figured out is, what you learn is also about how the world works. You know, why is the world structured the way it is structured? So you really get to have those moments when you think those thoughts. Why is Flipkart valued the way it is valued, for example? Okay. All these things are, to some extent, they get answered when you embark on this journey, if you spend some time on it, okay? And I'll share some of my learning with you. I'll also probably invite more thoughts on this later on.
But isn't that a byproduct?
Yeah.
So you don't start a business to only learn. It's
Yeah.
a byproduct.
True. No doubt about it. A lot of these things are maybe leaving a legacy on it. Maybe there are some other byproducts also. But my point is, when I was starting this journey, there's an interesting anecdote. I talked to my professor of entrepreneurship in NSR cell, and I asked him the same thing. He asked me why he wanted to start up, and I told him this exact same thing. I'm young and I've done my masters. If I were to do a PhD in business, this would be the way to do it. I would actually learn more doing this than I would in a corporate job, than I would, doing anything in any particular niche. So for me, it was not a byproduct. For me personally, it was also a cause, great cause. ठीक है. Now that I've established this, lot of guys, do you guys have a thought about this? Should you start a company which is in that venture capital kind of a raise money, grow fast kind of a thing, or do you guys also believe ki you can do a startup which is, let's say, doesn't grow that fast or doesn't need venture capital? Do you guys have these kind of debates with yourself? Yes.
I do.
You do. Yes.
I naturally, you can call me a control freak, but I don't like to give control to anybody. So therefore, I would rather grow organically than invite money. I'm just, that's a preference.
Fair point. All of this is fair. I just wanted to touch a little bit upon that. Do you guys also, anyone else also has this kind of a thing? Yes.
Both my wife and me also are not in favor of venture capital at all.
Okay.
I mean, we don't mind putting in a little bit of our own money, but we'd rather start small and then scale up eventually. Right?
And what's the reason?
Again, same thing. We just
Control?
Yeah, it's no longer your vision. You're again reporting to someone. So in a way, but your vision gets diluted. So I feel that it's.
Anyone else? No, so it's similar flavor. Yes.
The most ideal thing, of course, is to put your money and do it, because whatever returns you're making on that. I guess in the initial phase, it makes more sense to put your money and raise it. And then after a certain point in time, you have to get funding from somewhere. Then basically venture capital, it could be friends and family, wherever. Venture capital, one of the benefits that I see is that if you choose the right venture capital partner, they can bring a lot of business sense to you. They can establish a lot of connects, which will help you grow. It's not about only the money.
That's not going to happen. No VC is going to give you connects.
concept deck, and we found learning here problem, and then it worked. And that's why we have grown slowly, but it has been meaningful because we are solving. A
Definitely,
problem where
definitely.
Basically, you know what you're solving, and there is a meaningful, iterations going on.
Definitely, no doubt about it. Both, there's no right or wrong here. The only question is how do you think about it?
So Kshitij, there's one very strong challenge over here. So I was part of Kshitij,
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very 20 people team.
Okay.
Kshitij was Pune company. I worked there. I was like heading all the business. Okay? 15 years. We went public. Okay. I'm still on the board over there. So we had Sequoia at some stage. Okay? They came at both. Okay? Great. I mean, Sequoia is a great company, and for them it was.
The jury is out on that, but still.
Yeah, whatever. But see, they came at growth stage, so it wasn't really a challenge. Okay. I'm myself an angel in few companies. Okay. A very small ticket. But again, I've given money. We meet once a quarter. We just talk. How can I help you? How can I help you? Kind of stuff. But one thing again, I also work for somebody who is a funded, like guy who's got his first, he's got an AC. What I see is, if you can bootstrap, great. I mean, nothing like it. Borrowing money, see, there's always pressure on growth. You can't do anything about it. It's somebody else's money. But at the same time, if you're in technology-related business, what I can sense is, hey, the rate at which technology is changing, you need to invest fast. And if you don't have that kind of money in your pockets, better borrow money and start running the race. Otherwise, you are left long. I mean, this thing. It's not a race you can run actually.
Fair point. Anything else? Any other thoughts, guys, about whether you should raise venture capital at all or should you do it on your own?
I think it's also requested. The idea that I have is something that there's a review that's actually happening outside. And also, maybe we may decide not to go for it, at least it's worth start.
Okay.
I once the concept is tested well and I
Correct.
have decent visibility, yes, it will work.
Correct.
Only at that stage, not at the concept stage. I'll put my own money to be sure that concept is working, then only
Then only you'll raise money. So growth capital you'll raise.
And the other thing from some of this, maybe the venture capital, they are coming less at all. Maybe you don't have the potential to grow, to learn, to be the right investor. So if you're not go there, waste of your time.
Okay, so they might not invest, they might not believe in you. So
Then the use.
fair point, fair point. ठीक है.
And that can have an implication, just adding on to that
Yes.
point. Because if you are going with an approach that I'm going to raise funds and then I'm going to start or scale up, if you don't receive funds, you stop there. Or you would be waiting for months and years chasing venture capital rather than working on your idea or potential.
And getting the right partner is equally important. Again, that's one area I've seen. Some guys I've worked with, they got great seed, but they're looking for more money and they don't really, see, the guys who had bought in, not really guys who really had past experience of working with startups, really big challenge. So having right people, whatever, need angels, I see funny angels, who don't understand, that actually they are investing in an idea. So that's again one more thing where we're having a lot of challenges.
True. So I'll just articulate this for you guys. The way I think about this is, there are two options. You can get rich or you can be a king, okay? Rich versus king. So this is not my framework. It's a famous Harvard professor who has this framework. But this is the idea that if you want to get rich and that's your thing, but you don't worry so much about being in control of things, then VC is the path you should go to. If you care about controlling more than becoming rich, then bootstrap is the path for you guys. Okay. But, and this is very well articulated by, what's your name? Abhijit. He also said the same thing, that this is not all. Control is one dimension. Another thing is, every business is not going to be possible to bootstrap. There are many businesses where capital is one of the key key ways to start them. Otherwise you can't even make it happen. What do you do if you have, or you have an understanding for a business which can get there, but you need $100 million to make it happen, right? It can become, let's say a $10 billion company, but that's a requirement. So this is the framework. Plus you have to, I call it game, that is there a game you're playing? If there is a game that you're playing, you will need venture capital. If there's no game you're playing, then it's okay. And I'll talk more about this game thing later, okay, as well. Does this capture our thoughts combined right now? Awesome, great. So let's keep this in mind. Let's move on to the second question that I have for you guys. That was very relevant for me, and I have found myself spending a lot of time thinking about this problem. When do you say that enough is enough? When do you quit being an entrepreneur?
The same as when you quit a job.
When you get a better offer?
Not necessarily. Better offer is not the only thing. There are many.
I'm just being cheeky.
It's often the last of the criteria. So it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That's it. I mean, in your mind, there is a switch that goes on.
Okay.
So it's. I presume I'm not an entrepreneur, but I presume it should be something similar.
So some intuition will be there basically for it. What else? Can someone articulate this better? Can you think of a framework for this?
Let me just go back to the three things that you wrote.
Okay.
If those three things are not getting met,
Okay.
you started with this. So if you don't get it, that's the time that you decide that
So if you're not succeeding basically. But how do you know you're not succeeding?
you don't get any learning, you don't make money, entire states, all those aspects that you mentioned.
So basically some subjective judgment.
And the time that you're taking to do that. So if it is 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, so it can be a time frame. In that time frame, if you don't meet it, then
1 second. Yes.
set certain
Milestones. So I think you're saying the same thing. Milestones or time. Okay. Within 3 years you'll make it or you'll not make it, right? Okay. What else?
So when you're saying isn't working out, I'm thinking I've gone bankrupt so far, okay? And then I'm starting to burn some of my fixed assets, and then that is also burning slowly.
That's not necessary.
And then I'm saying, when would I quit? Is a hypothetical question, right? So it of course depends on the individual's risk appetite in that sense. But how much will you burn till you get on the street, right? So that's essentially a kind of a meter which keeps running. That's probably a way to do it. There's a better way than not.
Fine, just that that's not my question actually. My question is not when you stop this venture because you're going bankrupt. That's a very specific thing. My question is more broad. When do you stop being an entrepreneur and go back to taking a job? It's different thoughts. Not sure if.
See, one interesting thing is, when people have great ideas, you have an idea. In fact, see, I like your idea for a simple fact. It's a very practical idea. I meet guys who have crazy ideas and they don't know how to execute it. Right? The guys I worked with, as an investor especially, all of those guys have products. Their legacy, but they moved to cloud, added a lot of value, and in fact, some of them have broken even in a second. In fact, I have a guy who's broken even in after 18 months, okay? All their blood and sweat in it. But see, this is very important. Got a concept, you're on it. See, you realize whether it's going to work or not. Because one more thing, you keep on talking with people. I think at some point of time, you kind of know whether your concept's working or not. That learning part, that's actually very important. It happens, product improves, you have a certain thought on it. Is it working? Are people, that's what I've found where, where you should actually take the message. And then I've seen people, you have a product, you started with X, and you never realized when it became A, but A was working. Even that's happened in few cases. So great, whatever.
You're right, but I'll just clarify my question. My question is not when you stop this venture. That's okay, you stop this, do something else, some pivot. That's not my question. My question is when do you quit being an entrepreneur and go back to take a job? These are two separate mindsets, right? Very different things. Just 1 second. You had something to say.
Isn't the reason same as when you started in the first place? So you do the same evaluation. You started first time. You do the same evaluation that time. Is that still true? Still true, you continue. If it's not true, you continue.
That's I think what someone else also said. True. What about you?
I feel you should not quit. One should
this is a contrary opinion and I respect that. I should not quit.
Law, someone lost, but it should be okay with that or not? Quit and
No, it's not about this business. This business is not labeled, but being an entrepreneur, you should continue.
So I guess he modified his question. He said that never.
No, the question is written here. There's no modifications. Right here. ठीक है. No quitting.
When you run out of ideas,
We run out of ideas. Okay.
so you evolved 3-4 different plans like you have.
Okay. No more ideas. Okay. What else? Guys, too many people are speaking. Please raise your hands first. Yes.
I believe that when an individual decides to start his own on his own, it's basically one is security which already he has, and one is the risk appetite of that individual. So the risk appetite is actually higher than the security. That is why he is going for the starter. The day he feels or that happens that the security is now taking the score over the risk appetite, then he goes back to find a job.
Security versus risk. Okay. That's a very nice framework. What else? Yes.
I think if I understood the question correctly, I think it's not about whether the idea is paid. The idea is paid, let's say idea one, you can always
Pivot to something else. Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else. Second thing is, let's say if it's not working out because of capital issue, you can raise debt, raise capital through VC. And if you think you're not able to do it alone, you can collaborate. But I think that's not the point here. I think when you realize that being an entrepreneur, there are certain qualities and certain mindset and attitude which is required. You thought that you will be able to make it, but if you see that you're not able to make it, it's not about whether your idea is right or wrong, whether you are ahead of time or you're behind the curve. When you realize that you are not right for being an entrepreneur, but you're a good employee,
Okay.
you realize that you move back to being an employee.
Okay.
Because everybody cannot be an employee and everybody cannot be an entrepreneur according to me.
Okay. So fit is better as an employee basically when you realize that. Okay. So that's nicely articulated. Anything else? Yes.
Except for founder, with lots of time, you find you don't have enough time, so don't do it like you have but you just have a key to like that.
Okay.
Maybe you have to focus on for the time,
So security versus risk. Is that does that cover your thought?
for the effort and time.
Okay.
The day that you feel that you're not passionate about it.
Okay. When you run out of passion. Okay. So no more ideas, no more passion. Okay.
You realize your purpose is giving you less money than your
That's true for the entire lifetime as an entrepreneur. See, this is important. Okay. If this is your take home, okay, and this is time, okay, if you are in a corporate job, your payoff is going to look something like this, okay. If you're an entrepreneur, your payoff is going to look like this, okay.
your own analysis of indicates that you will be better off before your retirement or whatever time you
Yeah, yeah.
that you will be better off with the job.
So when does this point happen?
It's individual part, like sometimes.
ठीक है. So security versus risk would cover your thought? When you cannot take risk anymore because of security concerns? No.
External environment.
Complete market collapse.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Am I missing anything? Should we move on? Because I have a different take on this. Okay. If it's very sector specific and you cannot really step out no matter what, fine. But I'm not writing that down. If that's okay.
It will come under
external. ठीक है. Anything else?
And when you want to learn new things, like you left the job maybe a year later, you felt that okay, now I want to do something more, but like that will require me to go back to the companies like institute, take some more learning, make better collaboration, and come back again. So you may hand over your business to somebody and then take it back and then decide to come.
So.
Kshitij, let's hear from you now. I'm curious to know
Huh.
what you think.
Huh. So I agree with you a little bit, okay? There's a fundamental misconception about entrepreneurship, I think. People sometimes don't realize entrepreneurship is a career, okay? Much like it is being a doctor or being a lawyer, or you get the idea. Which means if you're a lawyer and you lose a string of cases, what would you do? Would you stop being a lawyer? What would you do? Entrepreneurship is a career, okay? It is not about starting this business. Why? Because it's a core skill that you're going to learn. You're committing yourself to learn how companies are built. And that learning will take 10 years. And once you have learnt all of that, then you cannot go back. There's no going back because that's the only thing that you know how to do. So you'll do something else. But it's a career. It's not a one-time event, okay? Entrepreneurship is a career. It's an important thing. And I've met quite a few mentors who say this exact same thing. And when you look at entrepreneurial journeys of people, you realize that a lot of people do exactly this.
Saying like Rahul Gandhi does not have a choice.
Pretty bad example. So it's a steep learning curve, okay? And once you have got that learning curve, that's what you know. You don't have an option. Or kya karoge? There's nothing else that you can do. Another important thing, these are all careers. A corporate job is a career. Being good means that you know how to handle politics, how to deliver, how to, operations, how to make sure that things are running smoothly, discipline. All these are core skill sets that you have if you're a corporate employee. Maybe those are not there in an entrepreneur. It's a different thing. It's an entirely different thing. Maybe there is no discipline in an entrepreneur, but because that's not important maybe, or maybe it is. It's a different skill set is what I'm saying. Like being a doctor or a lawyer is a separate skill set. So if you're acquiring a certain skill set, you're making a career, you don't have a chance of going back. Okay, it's a different thing. So like any career, a sportsman or any career, doctor, lawyer, sportsman, you have to start early and you have to be ready for a 10-year, learning. 10 saal lagenge before you become Sachin Tendulkar, right? Or not Sachin Tendulkar, but whoever. You get the sense. It will take time. It's not going to come easily. And there are going to be massive amounts of failures all along the way. So, like any career, an actor, a musician, anyone, it's a career, it takes time. Okay, that's my thought. So, counter arguments. Yes.
What if you're not able to financially sustain when you hit a roadblock?
It doesn't happen that way. In a sense, see, whatever you're doing, finally it will make some revenues, it will raise some capital, you will give yourself some kind of salary. If you're in a boat where nothing is working out at all, that is actually very rare. It doesn't work that way. You spend 2-3 years and you understand itna to ho jata hai ki you will make some money for your services, right? Otherwise you're doing something very weird. So that doesn't happen typically. Yeah. You deliver some value, make some money, you take some salary out of that. So it's never, bankruptcy situation nahi aati. It's not a very common thing. If you're doing at least basics right, bilkul hi alag kuch kar rahe ho, then I don't know. But mostly if you've got your basics right, you will not be in a situation where you're at a bankruptcy stage.
I just want to share one quick thing. There is a statement, if we treat all these things as an obstacle, saying non-availability or something, these obstacles are only meant for the people who are not serious. So an entrepreneur who might be serious enough, he will not see an obstacle and stop. So it's actually treated as a challenge and then move on. So Randy Pausch's lecture, last lecture.
Right?
Incidentally, there's one interesting perspective. What I've seen is, there's a difference between, entrepreneur is the end of the day a businessman, and what we're talking of is not daydreamers. Most of the, fairly successful entrepreneurs are actually businessmen. They do run after an idea,
It's part of your learning. If you're choosing this career and you're serious about this career, you will learn it. This is a core learning. How do you sustain? It's a core learning. You learn it. Any other counter arguments? Yes.
On starting early, I think that makes a lot of sense because at that point in time you don't have your risk level is pretty low in terms of your responsibilities. One of the bottlenecks that you probably hit, and hence your threshold level comes down, is once you've reached a middle age. At that point in time you have a lot of responsibilities and your threshold level is pretty shaky. The moment some things happen, you don't have
I'll answer that question. Not now, in a bit. Next slide. Starting early, see, it's very important for any career. If you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, you'll start when you're in college, right? Same thing. You have to start as soon as you can because it will take time. It will take 10 years before you have learned it. Yes. Okay. I'll answer start early in a bit, okay? My next slide answer start early, but any other point? Okay, so let's move on. How many of you are under 52 years of age? Do you know the character this gentleman played? Have you seen this movie? Yeah, Ray Kroc. You know the guy, he is the founder of McDonald's, practically. Right? When did he start McDonald's? What was his age? 52. 52 is when he met those guys, and then I think it would have taken him through 2-3 years to start the whole damn thing. Somewhere after 52. Sure. I'm sure that's true. I love this movie for another reason. There's a scene in this movie where this actor, when he is starting his first franchisee of McDonald's, he just abhi Bhumi Pujan type hua hai, he's there, there's dirt all over the ground. He takes some mud in his hands, squishes it and prays to God saying, God, I pray to you, I hope I be right this time. Okay? And the significance that I found was that this is right. This guy and his real story as well as what has been portrayed is the same. An entrepreneur who has been trying and you finally get there. Okay? Because again, it's a career. It takes time. There's no end age and there's no start age. It's obviously you have to start as soon as you can because again the learning is immense. It's a very steep learning curve. There are hundreds of things to learn. So let's move on to the next point. If all of you guys had a chance to start a business today, okay, and you have only 3 choices, okay, restaurant, a school, and I'm talking about in India, okay, you can start a restaurant in Bangalore or a school in Bangalore or an e-commerce company in Bangalore, okay. How many of you would choose each of these? How many of you would choose to start a restaurant? So about 1/3 of the class. School, you have to raise hand at least once, okay. कुछ तो start करना है भाई, venture entrepreneurship की class है. Okay. And how about an e-commerce company? So against Amazon, against Flipkart, है ना?
That's my expertise.
Okay, so that's your reason. Let's say you did not have any expertise, okay? Absolutely nothing. And you had 3 choices. What would you start? School? Restaurant? E-commerce company? What's your name? Martin. So Martin is the only guy who would start an e-commerce company or anyone else would join him? Sorry?
I came to India in 2016. We started an e-commerce company.
Okay.
And we failed, but we don't have any experience.
This is very interesting. I really like this. I did not expect I'll get such good results in my first class ever on this, but I'm very happy about this. So no one of you wants to start an e-commerce company except for Martin, right? What are your parameters? No, he had some experience in Flipkart, but when I asked him, "Kya nahi tha experience, to bhai kya karoge?" School. Okay, so school. So I want to ask all of you guys, what is your framework to evaluate which is good and not good? How do you think about it? I'm going to write all of this down. So 1 second. I'm going to remove this and write this down. So we are now debating what kind of business to start in a hypothetical world, okay? So, what are your frameworks? What are the parameters you would consider? Yes. Potential, okay. Scalability. Profitability.
Impact of external policy changes or government policy changes.
Okay, competition. Regulations. Gestation period.
Current pain points.
Current pain points. What else? One by one. Raise your hands, please. Yes.
I have a slightly different view. In both cases, both questions you asked, my answer was to be a restaurant. The reason being that a restaurant lets me be creative and go after what I would like to do. That is one thing. Second, that is the place where I can do maximum differentiation as against other businesses. So that is somewhere that I can differentiate myself.
So competition and differentiation are similar things, right? Okay. What else? Yes. Sorry? Passion and skill. Yeah, true. That's right.
No dependency.
Dependency on? Customers or external?
No, when I say if you have a sellable product, customer will come to you. So for making the product itself, if there is a lot of dependency involved.
So if there is someone else who has the right to win. So yeah, right to win is important. What else?
For me, it is a successful example or a reference.
So you have to copy something.
Yeah, so I have selected school.
Okay.
Reason being that I know somebody who has been successful in that venture.
Okay.
So that is the reason for why I would go for a school.
Okay, so basically someone in the network should be successful. So successful reference. Okay. Okay. What else? Capital requirements. Okay. What else? So profitability basically. It should hit profitability sometime. Okay. Great. Anything else? Should I move on? Okay. So this was my thought as well when I started my first company, that competition or differentiation is a critical thing. And if you were to start an e-commerce company today, there would be a lot of competition, right? So what I've learned is that it is important definitely, but more important than competition is market penetration. What is the market penetration of Flipkart today, for example? Okay. So that's a more important number. Having said that, there is one distinct category that again all of you have missed, and I think that is extremely important, especially if you're going to build a venture capital funded business, okay, which is what I'm talking about today. Something that every one of us must understand is that capital loves game, okay. There has to be a game at play without which there's no capital that's going to be available, and so you're going to be in a soup if that's what you're trying to do. And the reason why I'm only talking about this is first because this is a venture capital and entrepreneurship class, okay? So I'm not really looking into local, smaller businesses. I'm looking at really hitting a big six, okay? So that's an important category. You have to understand that if you're starting a business today, is there a game there or not? Is something that you have to figure out for yourself first. Second is what is the potential? What's the market size, as Martin said. Third is defensibility, which all of you missed. Again, what happens if other people also enter this market? How important is defensibility? There have been multiple studies conducted And people believe that as much as, I don't know, 80 to 90% of value created by all tech companies, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, is actually because these are massively defensible businesses for various reasons. I'll talk about that as well. So defensibility is a key critical thing in technology-based venture capital funded entrepreneurship. Yes?
So when I said differentiation, especially in the restaurant business, the reason I'm saying that is not because of competition. I'm saying I want to be in a place where there cannot be competition. In the sense, it is so unique that I'm not competing. I want to get rid of competition.
See, that's the exact wrong thought. If you want to build a big business, competition is your smallest problem. Your biggest problem is whether you're playing the right game, whether the market is big enough, whether what you're doing is defensible or not. Defensibility is not, see, when you say you don't have competition, moving first doesn't mean that you are defensible. Moving first doesn't mean someone else can't copy you. So when you're saying competition, I think what you're implying is you want to move first in an area.
No, not necessarily. You create a certain niche. It's not about growing really large. It's about creating a certain niche. Restaurant business is such a business that people are all about creating niches themselves. So my taste, if I cater to a certain market and somebody else creates to
But why would your niche be defensible? If I start an Egyptian restaurant today and I create a great niche for it, why would it be defensible? Why can't someone else with capital do it?
They can, but it is wide enough. The competition is not going to be very intense.
That's wrong. That's wrong. See, when I say defensibility, I mean things which are fundamentally not replicable. Can you replace WhatsApp today? If you were to get $100 billion today, can you replace WhatsApp?
Because that is a very
Articulate it. What is the reason why WhatsApp can't be replicated?
It's already so much penetrated into the market.
So-
Difficult to shift people from.
But why? Why is it difficult to shift? Articulate it. You're right, but why?
social network exists already. It's got the momentum.
Consumer loyalty.
It's not loyalty. You are a little bit right. So, first to market, if you guys want, I'll share a paper with you as well on this. First to market doesn't guarantee defensibility, because if what you're doing, you're first there, but if it is something which can be replicated, someone else will replicate you. Which is why you have so many businesses जहाँ पे second mover actually has a bigger advantage than first mover, because you can copy your model quickly. होता है ना ये? You have seen it happen, right?
Timing is more important.
WhatsApp cannot be disturbed because people are invested into it. People are invested, not I mean, it's not WhatsApp. People are invested into it and they're deep into it.
It's called network effects. That what happens is that if you have got two people onto your network and you get a third person, everyone benefits. If you got 100 people, you get the 101st person, everyone benefits. So then a network is extremely hard to replicate. It's now there, it's defensible, you cannot move it, right? In fact, 70% of all value created again in all large companies today, this study I'll again share it with you if you guys want, 70% of all value of Facebook, Apple, Netflix again is actually due to network effects, because they are defendable. You cannot remove a network. How will you do that? Okay, so that's what I mean by defensibility.
While they create their struggling for new productions and things like that, there's a network effect there. I'm just trying to understand your point of view.
I'll answer that. I have a slide about that. I'll answer that.
We also been very hard to enter businesses. There's a lot of complexity in technology and solution, which may not be an easy thing to replicate for others.
Technology itself has stopped being very defendable. It used to be, but then you have the whole, all case studies of the past 30 years where you had Japanese firms, then you had Korean firms, then you had Chinese firms doing the exact same thing, as their strategy. So it has, not, especially in software and all, it's not really there. Technology cannot save you all alone. Good point. That's my next slide. Yes. Okay. There are two large games that are being played by venture capital firms across the world today. There are many small games as well, but two massive broad themes which exist, which have existed at least in the past 10 years. Okay. The first theme is this: aggregation by the internet. Okay. What does it mean? This is what it means. That a new company being formed which has a direct relationship with a consumer, and it starts commoditizing suppliers by using this direct relationship. It has zero variable costs to serve these users, and it has two-sided network effects, which Netflix has. I'll talk about that. Okay. Are you guys aware of this? Next slide, I have a deeper thing on that. I'll answer then. Anything, Google for example, or Facebook. What does Google do? So what was, let me actually go on that slide itself because I have a schematic here. So, you want to take a photo? I'll go back, don't worry, just give me a minute, okay? Yeah, please, it's okay, it's all public, nothing great here. I'll share it with Mahendra. Where's Mahendra? I don't see him. Okay, I'll share it with you. Okay. This is aggregation theory. Have you guys read about this? It's a very interesting, interesting new way of articulating what is really going on in our world. Why is Google as valuable as it is, or why is Flipkart so valuable, and all those things. The reasons are this. Okay, if you think about it, if you look at, let's say, an example of print media. Okay, print media used to be an integrated function where owning distribution was key. Whoever could distribute papers was the king, right? You remember those days? Whoever could distribute magazines, whoever could distribute any kind of printed content, distribution was key. And if you could do distribution, what you could then do is you could have editors, you could have content producers, journalists under your own umbrella, and have that function integrated. So supply, control over supply, and control over distribution was integrated, and customers were an afterthought, right? No one cared what the customer wanted to read. You could publish all left-wing nonsense and people would be forced to read it, even if that's true, or right-wing nonsense for that matter. You could do whatever is it that you wanted, and customers had no choice, no voice, right? That's where we were, because every single publication had full control of supply and completely dominated distribution. Then what did internet do essentially with Google? It made distribution free. Now content distribution is free. If you are someone who has interesting content to share, no one can stop you. If you are interesting, you will be heard, right? Distribution is no longer important. What is then important is, basically Google has the best user experience for searching news or searching content compared to any other newspaper or magazine or anything, right? Think about Facebook then, similarly. Simplest way to discover articles today, right? For the consumer, whatever you want to see, you are interested in right-wing politics, you will get more right-wing politics. You are interested in left-wing politics, lo bhai. All jola wala nonsense will come to you. Whatever you are interested in, whatever you want, you will get, right? So the consumer experience of these platforms is amazing, which is why, because they have made distribution democratic, supply doesn't matter. They don't even have any relationship with supply. Google doesn't have one journalist on its payroll. That's beautiful, right? So that is what's happening with aggregation in the world. The same thing is happening with, let's say, music publishers, with Spotify. Same thing with cable networks, which is what Netflix is doing. That earlier you have to subscribe to a package to see those movies that you wanted to, right? Today you can just go to Netflix and get all of them whenever you want, on demand. Same thing is what Uber is doing to taxi fleets. Earlier, whoever controlled the maximum number of cabs, like a Meru, was the king, because control over supply is what was needed. Then Uber said, yaar, aap individual drivers pe aa jao, kya farak padta hai, right? They could democratize supply, commoditize supply by making the whole distribution democratic and making the consumer experience so much better. So this is the game which is playing consistently for a very long time, and in many, many industries. Even Amazon or Flipkart are part of the same journey, where they are creating platforms where both suppliers and consumers can come, and distribution is being democratized completely. Distribution is free now. That is the idea, okay? So that is game one. This game has two more important characteristics which are important to remember. One is that this game is typically played with zero variable costs. We are seeing some companies now emerge which are even pushing this notion forward. For example, you have heard of China Lodging, anyone? China Lodging? Oyo, Tribo, same company, right? What are they doing? They are doing the exact same thing. Now my variable costs are not there, but I'll not open my own hotel. I'll take hotels existing supply, I'll make the distribution free over internet, and I'll have a good consumer experience even if variable costs are not zero. So these are still experiments, they're not won, but at least platforms where variable cost is zero, like Flipkart, like Amazon, those have already won this a decade back. And these businesses also have strong two-sided network effects, which means that the more the number of consumers which come onto the platform, the more valuable it is for suppliers. The more the suppliers come in, the more valuable it is for consumers. And if you start growing both sides, you will have a tremendous lock-in where for anyone to replace you will have a massive catch-22 situation. You cannot get consumers if you don't get suppliers, you cannot get suppliers if you don't get consumers, and vice versa. So this is game number one, okay? So being part of one of these games, what I'm saying is an important parameter if you want to start a business today. So again, should you start a school, or should you start a restaurant, or should you start an e-commerce company? You have to start something where a game is there, where the game is playing, otherwise there's no point. Let me get to the second game. Okay, this is more interesting because I think a lot of you are from IT, right? Some people are from IT.
So if somebody started this game, so you become a follower in that game. You can also start a game tomorrow where others can follow, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be part of this game.
No, this is not the only game playing. There are many games afoot. I'm just talking about two large ones. Okay, so I'm not that opinionated. So coming to software as a service, okay, what is the game here? What's being played? So this is about, this is a misnomer. Some people think that software as a service is about software services. I hope you guys know that it's not about software services, it's about software products, just a misnomer. And these software, just the model is, it's a product which is charged as a service, a product for which you must pay month on month on month, okay? This is the game I'm playing, yes. Yes.
Not current way because things are, it was not early. That's how this has to be.
Yeah. It's a new, SaaS is a new business model. New in the sense it's a 20-year-old business model compared to a 40-year-old business model of on-prem software.
No, the reason I'm saying like availability of network, the options that can be stored in cloud, all these things are happening because of the evolution in network, accessibility of the speed network on the phone.
True. 100%. Yeah. Web browsers is a big reason. If you didn't have web browsers, there would be no SaaS, for example. Agreed. No doubt about it. So again, why is this game being played now? Because it is possible now. पहले तो हो ही नहीं सकता था. Without mobile, शायद Uber नहीं हो सकता था, for example. If you don't have GPS, what will you do? What kind of network will you build? कुछ नहीं होगा. So absolutely agreed. Without technology evolving, these things won't move. Agreed.
What do you mean by not services? So software products. And you said not services.
Basically, people have this misnomer that SaaS is about software services. It's not really about software services. The crux of SaaS is a software product which is charged as a service instead of a team of people doing consulting or doing services for a client. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes.
In China now there are two large games, one is for AI, one for blockchain. So the investors are.
Could you please say that again, Martin? I'm sorry I didn't hear you.
So I mean for China now, I mean for two games happening. One is AI, another one for blockchain. I mean investors lots of money in these two categories.
But nowhere near the money that has been put in these two categories. These are the largest games. They are there, definitely, no doubt about it, Martin. You're right.
The trend is changing now.
Yeah. Yes, you had a point.
When you say zero variable cost for a SaaS kind of a product, are you considering that there could be some kind of infrastructure cost as the customer base increases, and would that be variable cost?
Mostly zero variable cost, okay. I understand your point that more servers would need more. Definitely there is some variable cost. The best SaaS companies have 90% gross margin, 10% is their variable cost. The not so good companies have maybe 70% margin, 30% is variable cost. So again, this is a strategy class, right? So we will, sort of in a hand wavy fashion say that 10 is equal to 0, okay? That's all. What else?
One insight that I had when we think about software as a service, especially for SMEs in India, that there seems to be a kind of a hesitation to go on cloud. I don't know if you have also faced that.
It's massive.
Everybody, they're okay. If you want to give them a software, they're fine. They'll keep an old desktop and then they're okay to put any service on that, software on that. But the moment you ask them to take it to
So I'll talk about two things that might make your life easy, which made my life easy. First of all, see, one thing that is important is when we're talking about the SaaS game, it's a game which is about hosting things on the cloud in a multi-tenant fashion. Okay, if you're doing something like, let us say, what Jira does. Okay, Jira you guys know of, right? So what Jira does is every time you take a installation from them, it's not really a cloud-based multi-tenant system. It's a on-prem system which is being hosted in the cloud. So basically, every time a new client comes in, a new server gets fired up somewhere. Every client gets their own server, right? So I'm not talking about that. That is there, but that is a slower thing. So what true SaaS means, it has to be multi-tenant. It has to be, something which is evolving, which is instantly evolving. Every single time a bug gets reported from customer number 537, improving that solves the lives of the other 536 customers as well. That is what multi-tenancy means, okay? And that is what is extremely important. I have another slide about it, so I'll talk about that. Second thing, an important new thing that's coming up now. Please understand, AI, machine learning, the amount of data that is needed for these networks to learn, the amount of compute power you need is tremendous. For any reasonable sized data set, it's tremendous. What is the first implication for that? For these SMBs? If you want AI in your system, if you want any kind of prediction done, you cannot do it on-prem. एक server क्या ही कर लेगा? You need a whole farm. You need 100 servers की compute power चाहिए. क्या करोगे एक server से? So that's coming now. So we are going to see more and more of this, more and more things move onto the cloud with especially Google. Google is leading this quite nicely, where on their compute platform they have got a lot of AI abilities available, which are just not going to be available if you are going to be on-prem. Just not going to happen. So anyone right now taking a bet on on-prem, it looks hard right now because of more and more ML becoming possible. Let me move on to this slide. First, let me finish this topic. I've got my slide orders a little bit off. But this is what I mean by having true multi-tenancy, okay? Today, if you are a CIO, if you are evaluating two different things, you're evaluating a service and you're evaluating a product versus you're evaluating whether your company should be doing it in-house, okay? These are the three decisions in front of you. The one thing that really matters in software is that no matter what features you're promising in product, in service, whatever, one thing is there. If it's an on-prem system or if it's a system which is not multi-tenant, it's not going to evolve. It's going to get stuck in time. So when you are there, 6 months later, something new happens. A year later, something new happens. The moment evolution is happening in the world, software cannot keep pace. This is the single biggest reason why SaaS is succeeding the way it is succeeding. Because there's sort of a network effect there as well. That when your 1000th customer says something, improves something, your all 999 people benefit from that 1000th customer, which is not true at all for either on-prem systems or for on the cloud, but single server systems like Jira.
There is a drawback as well. It doesn't allow you to differentiate your business, that is business-specific customization.
Yes, it's not a service game, it's a product game.
If you go back to the previous slide.
This one?
Yeah, and you said that doing it in-house, it's a high risk. So another risk is if you keep outsourcing or maybe work with partners, dependency is very high. The partners move on, you have to start all over again. Sometimes that also becomes, as in you take 2 steps ahead, 1 step back, if the partner moves on.
You are comparing basically in-house to service. I am comparing in-house to product.
Okay, if you can explain the difference.
Basically, if you have a product company that is there, which you can use, for example, let's say Gmail. Would you do email yourself or just trust the product company to do it for you?
Okay, got it.
Versus if you have got a service company which says, I'll run an email server for you. Or your internal team saying, I'll run my own email server. Versus Gmail. That's what I'm talking about. Because Gmail has the ability to evolve continuously. Yes, no one else does.
If the company, we have our own domain and means we would like to be suffix is our company domain. So that's the identity which we maintain.
No, Gmail will do that for you. Gmail manage that for you. Yeah. Obviously, that's core for their business. Correct.
Just one thought. You're asking now we are asking, okay, why not we? There's a huge amount of time and effort is required to make on-prem some products to SaaS as a service, and then it's a huge time there.
It's an entirely new beast.
Yeah, so is it not becoming very difficult for us to even convince all the B2B customers? Is that how can we go ahead and convince them to again transform? So they have already transformed around 10 years back to this thing. It's a huge challenge for us to again convert to this model.
So it's about features. It's about what problems are you solving? Is there a bottom line impact? Is there ROI impact? So if their software is holding them back from what's happening in the world, if their marketing is getting affected, for example, so they are going to marketing automation systems. They will evolve faster because it's very, very clear to the CMO also कि यार ये नहीं improve होगा तो I'll lose out. My marketing will remain 20% less efficient. My revenues will take a hit. Yes. Cost, I think, is again, there's definitely some case studies where cost will be a factor, but they're going to be, headache is a bigger thing, no doubt.
Data privacy is such a big issue. I mean, for example, if I take Mercedes, as an example, they have their own email servers because Google's also developing a car. So Google's actually bad, they're not allowed to use it in their organization. That's a big issue. And the same with, I'm guessing even with you, right? Because your product, technically, you have all of that data. So it's a big problem.
So that's true, but just think about that. I mean, if there is someone who's providing them software of that kind, fine, they will maybe switch to a competitor. That's great, business call. But I think fundamentally that's not the right kind of call to take, because if you've got an evolving product versus you've got your own team doing it, your own team will do it at maybe half the efficiency, maybe 25% of the efficiency. You will not get the right kind of support that you need. You need to trust someone, yes. If this were, let's say, the US or something, I would say sign amazing contracts, sign amazing legal agreements. If you believe that the other party will behave badly, sign agreements. What else can you do? Because that's how all economic systems work, right? You trust other people on price, on material, on quality, on long-term quality, all these things. So if you can buy an office where you're trusting the guy has made earthquake resistant, where you're putting your life there, what is there in data? यार क्या रखा है ऐसा? कुछ भी नहीं है. It is just mindset.
Actually, the trust is there on the SaaS provider, but the trust is not there on the government because the moment it goes on the cloud, anybody can come and harvest you and then take away the data. And the tax
Has anyone?
Tax is the worst thing ever. Right? There is a 18% here, but tax sucks. And I wouldn't really put my data on the cloud if the tax guys come hunting you down.
See, if the tax guys are hunting you, you're in a different problem itself. कुछ और ही हो रहा है. नहीं, my point is, I agree, okay, you're right, that all these things are there, these considerations are there, but if you don't trust the government, you have a whole together different level of problem. And I understand we are in India, we have, massive issues of that kind. I agree. But the fundamental fear in moving to the cloud is not, it's not really about government, is what I understand from talking to my customers. It's about that people's data might not be secure. Some competitor might steal it. That's the biggest threat, right? Even with Mercedes, that's some competitor might steal it, right? There, the fundamental question to ask yourself is my data more secure in my house? I've got a system which has not been updated for 10 years. How is that secure? That's so less secure compared to Gmail. No, just telling you. Okay, that's how I answer this. Yes, someone had a question. Yeah.
Regarding this one, even some of the sectors in this medical, a lot of countries have very strong regulations about not sharing the data, for example, patient data. There are very strong regulations in the US to protect,
Correct. HIPAA and all.
has laid down regulations so that these companies or hospitals cannot share the patient data with individuals. So that's also one factor. Wherever regulations are very strong, the data is secure. More or less.
Hospitals never want to go on cloud because they want to keep something basic. They don't want to be clean.
I mean, those are, sure, specific challenges to specific industries, no doubt about it. But fundamentally, the game that is being played out again, if it's not happening today, in 10 years, it will be untenable not to move on the cloud. because of evolution and because of AI. No AI is going to get built on-prem. It's just not going to happen. Too much data is required for that. Too much compute is required for that. It's not going to happen. So the day you see lead scoring algorithms, the day you see random forest algorithms, ADA boost algorithms, any strong AI ML algorithm coming and becoming a part of your business, that is the day on-prem is by. It's not going to be there. Network effects I talked about. So I'll just talk about what kind of network effects exist. It's important to think about this. Okay. So someone said that technology itself can be a differentiator. It can be a defender, right? So what people are finding more and more is that if you have to defend yourself, your tech company, you have to defend yourself from competition later on, late entrants, it's not going to be with technology. It's going to get commoditized. The only thing is either you have network effects or you have scale advantages like Amazon. You can sell stuff at such low prices no one else can beat because you've got massive scale. Or you're a SaaS company and you're embedded in the sense you have become sort of a platform where the enterprise which is using you is also running its own Tally server on top of you. It's also running 3 other kind of services on top of you. So you're embedded. It's very hard to replace you. You have massive switching costs. Or you have brand, which is true for some consumer companies, true for few enterprise companies as well. So these are the only non-network effect ways of sustaining a business. Apart from that, there is network effects. I'll just describe quickly. There are 3 categories. The first category is basically physical network effects, which are telephone networks or road networks or rail networks, where adding another node gives value to the entire remaining network. And these networks are basically, these are games that cannot be played anymore. They've already been played, won, etc. Unless you're Mukesh Ambani. So let's not do that. The second kind of network effects are basically utility network effects or personal network effects. These are very interesting because if you're building a product today, these are network effects which you can actually plan for and build in your product. In the sense, if you look at GitHub today, that's a very nice example. So you guys have heard of GitHub, right? So what is GitHub? GitHub is basically a platform which is a front end for Git, which is open source software to manage your code. And then people put their own personal profiles, how much code they have written, what kind of contributions they've made to open source projects there. So it's sort of become the LinkedIn for developers, right? That has massive utility because once a lot of your users start putting their personal profiles there, their professional profiles, okay, I am someone who has made contributions to 100 open source projects, or if you are, let's say, an automotive salesperson, then I am someone who has sold 100 cars in the past 6 months, or whatever it is, okay? Once that starts to happen, once your professional identity starts getting onto a network, then it's very hard to remove it. It's very hard for this guy to move somewhere else. For example, if you move away from LinkedIn today, how would you publish your accomplishments to the world? It's very hard, right? So basically becoming sort of a LinkedIn in your particular industry. So that's entirely possible. Another thing that's possible is basically a market network where if there are multiple participants in your value chain, if you can bring all of them online, onto your platform, then it becomes very hard. If there are multiple roles of people who are interacting to provide a service and all of them are working on your platform, it's very hard to remove all of them, and so on and so forth. So when I was talking about the e-commerce game, this is what I was talking about with network effects. Any questions here? Okay, people are sleepy. I'll just quickly start ending this. Yeah. So it's a two-sided marketplace. The more content they bring on, the more users will be there. The more users bring on, the more content suppliers must work with them. It's a two-sided network like Amazon, like Flipkart, exactly same, no difference. If you were to start another Netflix today, would Sony work with you? Unless you have 100 million subscribers, Sony would say, "Yaar, kya bakwas hai, main kyun kaam karu tumhare sath?" So Sony will not work with you. No other distributor will work with you either. Market networks have, two-sided networks have this problem. There is multi-tenancy. For example, if I'm a supplier, I'm listing on Flipkart, I might also list at Snapdeal. So there's always multi-tenancy. Netflix is a smaller, it's a weaker network. So for example, this one we had, right? The strongest networks are here. They are the strongest network effects. When you move to red ones, two-sided networks, they are weaker. When you move even further, it's even weaker. When you go to these circles, they are extremely weak. Strongest networks are at the core, and then they become weaker. So Netflix is definitely weaker than others, but it still has immense defensibility because of its two-sided network effect that it has. That brings me to my final topic today. How do you have a great startup idea? This is something that I used to ponder quite a lot. How do you get a great idea? Yes.
Focus on the problems in your life.
Sorry?
Focus on the problems in your life. Focus in your life. Identify their also for opportunities.
Focus on? I'm sorry.
Problems in your life. Problems in your life. Focus on the problems.
In my life.
As in he's just using your life. Focus on problems in life.
Okay. Okay. Problems in my life. Okay. As is used as a consumer of services. Martin is right. Anything else? Value addition. Actually, this is not the question I'm asking here. I have not articulated it well. Making life easy. Actually, I'm saying something else. Maybe the great word is important there. How do you have a great startup idea? Okay. Let me just answer it directly because I've not done a great job at articulating the question. Basically, you have to become someone who thinks about these things, about network effects, about what's happening with this world. You have to, who's abreast of what people are thinking in these circles. So that's who you have to become to get great startup ideas. For example, what are the theses of VC funds? If you go speak with, let's say, a principal or an associate, what are the problems they are facing? What kind of things would they like to fund? There are funds that have public theses. For example, Union Square Ventures publishes its thesis publicly, so read them. NFX does that as well. Another thing I advise people is read TechCrunch every day. Get the TechCrunch app if you don't have it. How many of you have TechCrunch app on your phone right now? So download it. Read it every day. It's a very nice reading. Another thing is Hacker News. These are sources. Download these things on your phone and keep reading them every day if you really want to. If you're interested in this field, okay? Yes. One slide back, okay. Union Square Ventures. I'll leave you with one final thought. It has taken me a lot of time to realize this, but I truly believe it today. When we think of starting up, we typically think narrow. We think of doing a small thing because at least I knew people, my friends who did that, because they were afraid that thinking big will actually be hard because they're doing it for the first time in their lives. But what I've realized is that in today's world, the bigger your dream is, if you have a $100 billion dream, it will be easier to execute than if you have a $100 million dream. Yes.
Initially, as you rightly told, think big and versus think small. And in the journey of 2 years or 3 years after it had, things would have changed and you would have done a lot of things. Then you would have realized a lot of things. Basing on that experience, you get a lot of insights that you may not have that at the beginning of the journey. So when somebody wants to transition that, what is the key things, 1, 2, 3, in the mindset that we can see you should have?
The first most important thing is perseverance. You have to know it's a 10-year journey. You will fail for 10 years before you become successful. Before you become an overnight success, because your payoff will be like this. So 10 साल तक कुछ नहीं होगा, and 10 years के बाद you will be rich. ठीक है? Mostly that's how it would work. There's no guarantee in life. ऐसा नहीं कि हो जाएगा. Maybe that will also not happen. But that is one thing, perseverance. Second thing I would say is being abreast of what kind of games are being played and inserting yourself into one of these games which is being played. So that's important. What else? A certain amount of stupidity. Because if you analyze these things absolutely rationally, you will never take a leap. It's very hard. You have to be stupid and say, okay, I have a career, I'll leave that career behind, I'll start a new career today. It's like, leaving one way of living and becoming a different person altogether. Being stupid, yeah. Yeah.
The heart versus mind, the game that happens in the mind. You believe in your heart and you do
I think it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same. I mean, you can take a rational call as well. You can say, I want to learn this. I want to know how this world works. I want to know why Google is valued the way it is valued. I want to know why Flipkart is more valuable than Hyundai, for example. Sorry? Took us 4 years. 4 years, yeah. Slightly, little longer than what we had hoped for. Yes.
I agree for two figures, for school, because you are, keep on moving bigger and bigger. But many products started very small. Like for Facebook, before they never thought about for the helping the maybe entire world before, and also for like Yahoo, also YouTube. They start very small project, but gradually adapting to big audience.
So it always starts like that. You always start small. That's definitely no doubt about it. But at some point, I'm sure in Facebook's journey, there was some dude who said, maybe Peter Thiel or someone, this can become really big. And then he gave them that advice, you can become really big. You can become, the internet, the face of the internet for a large section of the world. So someone dreamed big. Maybe not the founder himself, maybe some backers or some advisors, but someone did. And that would be true for YouTube as well, that would be true for Yahoo as well. And everything starts small, there's no doubt about that.
One more question. Where can one go wrong? Or what should one keep in mind while going slow? Because it's easy to get lost. You are defining your own course. So what are the checkpoints? Or where did you feel if you felt you were going in the wrong path and course corrected? Or how do we identify that you're going wrong?
Very hard to say. And so it's going to be a personal journey. And there's no, success is it's hard to find and failure is very easy to find, right? So you will find failure many times. You will go wrong 100 times. You will go around 100 different ways. Also, success, finding success is sort of repeatable in the sense that there is a way that it works, but there are millions of ways in which it doesn't work. So your path will not be defined. To find success, you'll go through hundreds of repetitions, iterations, wrong steps. I showed you mine, you'll go through yours. There'll be no similarity. Two successes might look similar. Two failures are bound to look different.
You talk about the first two ventures. You said, where did you go?
Okay. If I were to articulate what were my mistakes. So the first simplest mistake was when I started with the board game venture. There was no reason why I should have started something non-tech. I have been a coder all my life. I should have done something in tech, because the possibility again of inserting yourself in one of those games, of addressing a large market size, all those things are more there in tech than there in outside tech. So that's one mistake I would not have done in hindsight.
But what went wrong? Board game is a good idea. I'm sure it will have.
Market size is small, there's no defensibility, there's no game being played. The entire pyramid went wrong. Yes.
You said you were using smart.
Yeah. So now that we are done with the class, are we done with the class?
I think yes, Kshitij. I think it's 7:30 already. And
Honey, awesome.
I don't want to take a lot of your time.
Okay. So okay, we are done with the class. Let's move on. So one final thing for all of you. You have written one idea down. I would love if you can, below that, write if there are any changes to your thought today because of what I have spoken. If because of this interaction, not what I have spoken, but your own class participation as well. If there are changes and if you would like to change and instead of your original idea, you would want to do something else, okay? If not, it's perfectly fine. If you wanted to open a school then, if you want to open a school now, fine. But if something has changed, even if it's a minuscule thing, please write down. If it's not changed, please write very strongly कि नहीं भाई कुछ नहीं change हुआ आगे बढ़ो life में, ठीक है? Either is fine. And finally, on the back of the page, I would love if you can give me a little bit of feedback about this. First thing I would like to know is what are the 2 or 3 things you would want to remember from today's conversations. Is there something that you strongly disagree with? That's very important because again I've been opinionated because that was my job. Okay? So if you disagree with something, please write it down. If there is a section that you would want me to cover in greater depth if I were to take this class again to some other batch, please mention that.